Fellow veterans, especially the veterans and families of the South China Yangtze Patrol Asiatic Fleet. Good afternoon. It's really a pleasure to be back in Asheville, my adopted hometown. This picture reminds me a lot of a submarine. It's long and narrow. We're all crowded in here together with our best friends, and we really like it. So now you know what life in a submarine is like. But I really do appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. And I consider myself not only a member of the Asheville family, but also a professional descendant of the distinguished veterans that are here. So I remain inspired, and I'm glad to be with you today. As Captain Vasilik said, I just returned from 8 months in Afghanistan. It may sound strange to have a submarine sailor in Afghanistan, but I figured to refer back to what the mayor said earlier. If a city in the mountains of North Carolina can have 4 ships named after it, then a submarine sailor can serve in the mountains of Afghanistan. I have to tell you about my first day there because it brought me back home to Asheville. I was in a meeting with about 30 people from not only the United States but the international community. The chairman of the meeting had us all introduce ourselves, and when he got to me and I made my introduction, he stopped the introductions. And he said, "Captain, what makes you think you can contribute to the mission in Afghanistan?" Chaplain, I'm proud to report I did not say the first thing that came to my mind. But it gave me something to think about. Later that night, when I had time to ponder the question, and I distinctly remember it being a very hot night, my mind came back here to this lobby and to the memorial service we had last year when we renewed the museum here in the hall. And I thought about the photo that's on the bulkhead directly behind me. It's a picture of the officers and men, including the Marines, from the 1st Asheville. Happens to be from the 1st Asheville. It could have been any of your ships from the Asiatic Fleet. And I thought about the faces that are there on that picture and what they would have said in response to that question. And then the answer became clear. I think they would have said, because this is what their faces say to me, "I'm an American, I'm a sailor, I'm wearing the uniform of my country, I enjoy the support of my family, my chain of command, the American people, and what I don't already know I can learn." I think that would have been enough. That's what the faces in that picture told me, and they continue to inspire me. For the rest of my remarks, I'm going to focus on the Navy, but I want to add that in my time in the service, most recently in Afghanistan, it's been a distinct honor to serve with other members of our armed forces, all of whom are remarkably professional and dedicated to the mission. And that goes for our coalition partners as well. There are a number of principles that guide our Navy as we move forward into the 21st century. I just want to cover a couple of them with you. First, we remain a maritime nation. And that means that both our economic security and our physical security will be highly dependent upon our Navy's presence on the high seas. A second principle, another enduring one, is that our own security starts well beyond our territorial seas. Some people have recently come to this conclusion, but those of you who have served in the Asiatic fleet know only too well that our national interests extend well beyond the 12-mile limit. Another important part of this principle is the fact that we cannot provide this security alone. We continue to rely heavily on our friends and allies around the world, just as the Asiatic fleet did. And three nations I would cite that should ring bells with you. Today in Kabul, Afghanistan, there are F-16 fighter aircraft from the Dutch Air Force. There are Australian Special Forces serving in Afghanistan, and British as well. Thirdly, our skills are increasingly in demand, and we have to adapt those skills to address the changes in the security environment today. These will not always be combat forces. I'll give you two obvious examples. One was the United States response to the tsunami that occurred in December of 2004. The first humanitarian assistance forces on the scene were a United States Aircraft Carrier Strike Group and Expeditionary Strike Group. And then when the earthquake hit Pakistan in October of 2005, that relief effort was run by an American Admiral Lefevre, from another Expeditionary Strike Group. Both of these efforts provided significant humanitarian relief, which was our primary mission, but obviously it says a lot about our country. And of course, the Navy and Marine Corps team have forces in Afghanistan, Iraq, the Horn of Africa, and other parts of the world performing both combat and combat support operations. So you can see that the Navy has a profound impact, literally from the mountains to the seas, which just happens to be the model of the submarine USS Asheville. And finally, I would add that our strength has always been and will continue to be our people. Today's sailors truly admire and are so gratified for the legacy you have left us. If I were to list what makes a sailor like you truly magnificent, I would say the following four things. First, you were innovative. You showed us the value of doctrine, of training, but also the importance of being creative. And as was just explained earlier, sometimes creativity is the only thing that keeps you alive in the open ocean. You showed us initiative. We study now, we listen to our commanders, but then once we have the commander's intent in our heads, we move forward with confidence. On the ocean, you cannot always call home for advice. We build teams. Truly, United States Armed Forces are an incredible joint force, a joint team. But no one does it better than the Navy, and certainly no one does it better than the crew of a Navy ship. And lastly, sailors remember. They keep memories alive long after the ships are gone. This is a great service to every future generation. It inspires us to follow your example, just like it did for me on a hot night in Afghanistan not too long ago. And for that, I sincerely thank you, and God bless you.